Yeah, I literally I got home about 10 minutes ago and just had to set everything up real quick and change shirts. That's literally all I've had time to do. I hate
Let's
baseball.
see. All right. Apparently we are working. Let me turn the sound up just to see.
Organize that.
At least I hope we're streaming. Are we streaming? I have picture, but nothing is. Come on. All right, we are streaming to Twitch.
Sweet.
All
Whenever you
right.
post it, I will share it.
All right. I hope. Let me make sure I can hear this. Yep, I can hear that. You can hear that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here we go. Are you ready? I didn't even ask if you were ready yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm
All
good.
right. All right. I'm sorry. I've been working on this for like the last hour. I've had one thing I had to fix to make the Twitch stream not echo, and it was the last thing I checked. Literally, I went through like 50 settings before I was like, "Well, let me check this," and that turned out to be the thing. Of
That's
course.
always that's always how it goes.
All right. Well, if you're ready, I'm ready. Here we go. Pull this up so I can read it. All right. Here we go. This episode of Nerd Cave Retro is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/nerdcave. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
You're listening to the Nerd Cave Network.
Greetings, programs, and welcome back to the Nerd Cave Retro Show. My name is Jason Robbins.
And I'm Derek Diamond.
You know, I didn't even check to see if the people on Twitch can hear the music. I hope they can, or it's going to look really weird, us sitting here dancing and they can't hear the music.
We'll leave it up to their imagination.
Yeah, just insert whatever, put in some I don't know, Big Willie style or something in there. But we're on episode, 49 right now?
Yeah, 49. Wow. We're getting old.
We're almost to 50. We're almost ready for AARP.
I know, and in 3 months we'll be ready for retirement.
Yeah, exactly. I'm ready for retirement. I don't know about you.
Cash that Social Security check.
Yes, get cheap buffets. Get the early bird specials, all that good stuff.
Oh, you can't beat the early bird.
Yeah. I would tell you what I did today. I went and saw a movie, and I went and saw The Dark Tower. I'm going to save it for our mid-roll where we talk about Audible.
It's not looking good.
No, I'm going to save it. Let's go ahead and ask you how was your day? I know you worked all day. You literally just got into the house and then jumped on Skype to do the show.
Yeah, I had to set my laptop up. I got actually a new setup for those who are watching, out of my office into what's now my nerd room / podcast recording room, because I figured the audience would be much more interested in looking at this than a green screen.
Yeah.
So I got home from work about 15 minutes ago. Had just enough time to grab some water and get everything set up and whatnot. So yeah, it was back to reality. Had to go back to work this week. I did finish my movie script late last night, so sent it off to some people for critiques. So we'll see how that goes.
I'm ready for my version to critique. That's what I'm waiting for.
I might have a little something for your inbox after the show's over.
Awesome. And just got something in my inbox a little while ago from Mr. Steve Wise. The director cut The first cut of Survey is done, and I am excited to get to watch it. Of course, it has, the sound hasn't been fixed, and there's no music, there's no sound effects, but at least we get to see, how the movie's going to look. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, I'm actually meeting with Steve sometime this week. We haven't figured out when yet to go over sound editing. So
Cool.
that'll be. I haven't really delved into too much audio editing when it comes to film. So that's going to be really exciting to do.
Yeah, I wish I could sit in and do that. I've never done audio editing for an actual film. I've done plenty of audio editing as far as music, because I pretty much have spent most of my life in recording studios, and I worked in one for a while. So it'd be really interesting to do it for a movie. That's one thing I haven't gotten to do yet.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for the final version to be done. We both had a lot of fun working on it. I'm excited to see your parts because, we weren't on set the same day. So
yeah,
that's going to be exciting.
I hope it doesn't suck.
I'm sure it doesn't. I'm sure it's great.
But on that note, let's move into the news for this week. A modernized N64 pad finds Kickstarter success. This comes to us from Retrogamer.net. You probably never heard of the Retro Fighters control pad for the N64, and we could hardly blame you for that. The Kickstarter campaign to make it has barely been up for a day. However, it has already smashed its $13,000 funding goal with 29 days to go. The original N64 pad is a famously divisive design thanks to an odd three-pronged configuration nicknamed the Trident by fans, which of course we talked about this last week. It certainly introduced some good ideas, such as the rear-mounted Z-trigger on the center of the pad, but it was confusing design for newcomers and a very bulky device. Worse yet, the controller has long-term reliability problems. The analog sticks tend to loosen significantly over time as plastic is worn away during regular operation. But if you the new pad, if you take a look at this thing, it's shaped a lot like an Xbox 360 controller.
Yes.
And set up a lot like that. And I want one of these things badly. If you want the Retro Fighters N64 controller, it'll set you back $20 with an estimated delivery date of November 2017. Larger pledges will get you exclusive
It's supposed to
posters.
say will net you.
Will net you exclusive posters, t-shirts, and your name in the manual. Extra color options will be made available as stretch goals are reached. And you can go to the Kickstarter campaign page by clicking the link in the article. This thing is really nice looking. Like, I want this thing because it looks so awesome.
It just has a very simple, clean, but efficient look to it. It's a plain gray controller, but it's very traditional in design. You've got your joystick on your left along with your D-pad. You've got the start button right in the middle, which is nice. The C buttons are actually in the top right, which I actually really like.
Yeah.
Because you kind of forget that the N64 controller only had the A and B.
Yeah.
But then it introduced, the C buttons, and then the GameCube later on had the C stick. I think it's a great looking design. This was something that I'm honestly surprised we didn't bring up. The analog sticks on the old controllers are awful.
Yeah, they are.
Every time I've been to a retro gaming store, I've seen controllers, and the control sticks are just really worn down.
Well, if you look at this one, it's really nice. It's got like a rounded top to it. Almost like pretty much every modern controller has that nice rounded kind of grippy top to it. That'll be nice. Yeah. And plus, I just sent Derek a picture the other night. My brother sent me Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time for N64, and I want to play it on this controller.
Oh, I do too. I mean, it's $20.
Yeah,
it's easily worth $20. I would pay like 25 or 30 for this.
Oh yeah, I'm doing that this week.
Yeah, for sure. And it's an estimated delivery date, as you said, of November 2017. That's not that far away. It's only 3 or 4 months. So that'll be here before you know it.
Well, I'm going to pretty much guess that this was already in production. I don't think they have to do the production. They probably just needed a little money to get it like, I don't know, maybe some extra manufacturing costs or something like that. So
Yeah.
this thing looks really nice. If you haven't checked it out, please, if you're an N64 fan, please go look at retrogamer.net and check this out. It looks fantastic.
And check out the Kickstarter too. I mean, like I said, $20 nets you the controller. That's these days that's not that much money.
Oh no, not at all. Especially for something like this.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of retrogamer.net, our next story also comes from RetroGamer. Sega Genesis Flashback creates controversy. The system doesn't launch until the end of September, but AtGame's new Sega Genesis Flashback console has already generated controversy. A number of units have gone out to U.S. gaming outlets for review, and the response has not been favorable. GameSpot, warned consumers do not buy AtGame's Sega Genesis Flashback console. IGN damned it by saying more like trashback, which I'm kind of shocked that they would go that far. And Gizmodo called it hot garbage. While the sound issues that have dogged AtGame's Mega Drive consoles for years have largely been fixed by this new machine, reviewers complained of very unresponsive wireless control pads and emulation that exhibits notable slowdown on both the built-in games and those played via cartridge. Now, in response, AtGames has issued a statement claiming that the units sent out for review weren't representative of the final products. When contacted by Kotaku, the company claimed a batch of our review units were accidentally shipped out with early software builds that do not represent the final version. Interesting.
Yeah. Why would you?
Very interesting.
Why would you bother sending these out if they're not the final?
Exactly.
Product. That doesn't make any sense to me, and I've heard too many bad things about this console. Especially, I haven't really heard anything good about any previous AtGames stuff. So I'm just not even going to bother picking this up. And the reason I put this in is because we talked about this last week, and this is pretty much what I was talking about. All these different, gaming sites are just pretty much just saying this thing is just trash.
The prototype or the non-final versions should not even be in a position to be able to be sent out. So that's their first mistake, and in theory this should be a good competitor to the SNES Classic. But since this brand AtGames does not have a very reliable reputation, I don't see this thing really doing that well.
No. I don't either.
And as much as we've bashed Nintendo, we know that they make a reliable product.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to buy.
I just don't think that this thing's going to... I mean, you'll get the people that'll see this thing on the shelf that aren't really in the know, and they'll probably pick it up because they're like, oh, I had a Sega Genesis when I was a kid. And then they'll get it home, and it's going to be a pile of junk. So... I don't know. Yeah, I just don't see this thing having a very long shelf life.
No, and it's a shame because I love the feature that you can put cartridges in it.
Yeah.
I wish the SNES had that feature, but if it's a crap product.
I mean, if you're going to go that far and you want something that you can actually put cartridges in, just go and get yourself like a Retron. Spend the money to get a Retron or something like that.
Yeah,
that's what I would suggest. But coming up right now, we have this month in video game history. In August of 1982, overlooked arcade games are revitalized as ColecoVision launch titles, including Cosmic Avenger, Mousetrap, Ladybug, and Venture. Did you ever have a ColecoVision?
I did not. I've heard of ColecoVision, but I never owned one, and I've never played one.
Yeah, I never had one, but ColecoVision was always that weird console that like one of your distant cousins would have, that you go to like a family reunion and there'd be like this old ColecoVision like rotting in the corner that nobody played in a decade. That's pretty much what a ColecoVision is.
It sounds like an 80s camera.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like a video game console. It looks really odd.
I'm looking at a picture now. It looks almost like a VCR with a really weird remote control.
Yeah. the only, Atari was really the only gaming console at that time that actually looked like a video game console. Everything else just looked like weird, like audio or stereo equipment or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting. Like I've heard stories about the ColecoVision, but never played one. But on August 24th, 1982, Ultima 2: The Revenge of the Enchantress is released. We've talked about Ultima a few times on this podcast.
Seems
one of the longest running game series that we've seen.
Yeah, it seems like every month we're talking about an Ultima release back in the 80s.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, it's still around, so apparently it's got some legs.
Yeah.
On August 6th of 1986, Nintendo releases Metroid by Makoto Kano, the first in the Metroid series. What can we say about Metroid other than one of the greatest Nintendo franchises of all time?
It needs to be brought back.
Yes,
ASAP. I mean, I know we've got Metroid Prime 4 in the works, but
I'm excited for the cartoon that they're developing for Netflix.
Oh, me too. If Castlevania is any sign of how those are going to be, Metroid's going to be really, really good.
If you haven't seen Castlevania yet, people, what are you doing? Why are you listening to this show and you haven't seen Castlevania yet on Netflix? Go stop listening to the show right now. Go watch Castlevania. It'll take you like an hour and a half, and then you come back and you finish the show out.
That's what I was about to say. It's not going to take that long.
Yeah, you can finish it before like midnight.
Yeah. On August.
Sorry.
August 15th, 1986, Electronic Arts releases open-ended space exploration adventure game Starflight, which goes on to sell 1 million copies.
Never heard of this before in my life.
I have not either. I'm looking at the box art. It looks very, very 80s game-like, with just the little photo in the middle, and you've got the huge black border with the title at the top.
Yeah.
Interesting name. I know nothing about it.
No, I don't either. I've never even heard of this. But I have heard of this next game in August, also in August of 1986. The Taito Corporation, I need to say that right, or Wally will correct me again on Twitter.
Hashtag fact check.
Hashtag fact check. Hashtag fake news. Taito Corporation releases Bubble Bobble. Have you ever played Bubble Bobble? I actually have it on the shelf right over there, right behind me.
I have. It's actually on the NES Classic.
Yes.
Pretty fun game. I've played it just a handful of times, but it's good. I like it.
It's up there with one of those puzzle games, in that vein of Dr. Mario and Tetris. It's kind of takes a lot of skill and the game gets harder as you go along, that type of thing. So if you like those type of games like Tetris and Dr. Mario and things of that nature, go get Bubble Bobble. You'll love it.
For sure.
And coming up here, before we do our review for tonight, we usually talk about books. So Derek, I'll let you start it off, and then I'm going to talk about the atrocity that I saw on the silver screen today.
For you, the listeners of the Nerd Cave Retro podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service.
All right. I love the Dark Tower series. Other than that, the Lord of the Rings, and I think probably the one other book I've probably read as many times as those is called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which was my favorite book as a kid. I probably read it like 20 times as a kid. I'm still in the middle of reading the Dark Tower series right now. I'm on book 5 as we speak, which you need to get at Audible because it's great. The movie, I don't know what they were thinking when they made this movie. Like, look, I like Idris Elba. I like Matthew McConaughey. The kid was good. The kid made a good Jake. But it was like, what is this? What am I watching? It left so much shit on the table, and then just it didn't get anything right. Nothing. It got nothing right about the book. So if you've seen the movie and you're like, meh, and you've never read the books and you're like, man, I don't have any desire to read the books, please do me a favor. Go to audibletrial.com/nerdcave. Get yourself the Dark Tower Book 1, The Gunslinger, and just do it. It's so good. It's so good. Not the movie. The movie's awful.
So is it they just didn't really do an adaptation of the series? They just like used characters and kind of came up with their own story?
Pretty much, yeah. It was nothing like the books. It didn't feel like the books. The characters weren't true to what their characters in the book, and a lot of the main characters are missing from the movie. I don't understand, like, why would you do that when you have all this source material to pull from? Which is why I never understood why they made it as a movie in the first place. They should have done a Game of Thrones style HBO show. And you could have done, if you're doing a season per book, you would have had, let's see, like 8 or 9 books, including the newest one he put out a few years ago, The Wind Through the Keyhole, which kind of takes place between books 5 and 6, I think, is where it's supposed to go. You would have had like 8 seasons of television to go through.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Why do you... I don't understand Hollywood sometimes, man. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, I won't get into the whole discussion because that it could be honestly its own separate podcast.
Oh, yeah,
but
we should.
There are certain things that would work better as TV than they would movies.
Oh yeah,
and it sounds like The Dark
exactly.
Tower is one of those.
Yeah, I've been waiting 20 plus years for this movie to see The Dark Tower on the silver screen, and it was disappointing. That's all I gotta say. It was disappointing.
But to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/nerdcave. Again, that's audibletrial.com/nerdcave for your free audiobook download and 30-day free trial.
So let's pick it back up and let's review this for this week. Now that's some jaunty music right there.
It's so good. This week, I will be reviewing quite a popular game for originally the Sega Genesis, but also for the Super Nintendo. A game that, surprisingly, I never played as a kid or when it came out. This week, I will be reviewing Earthworm Jim. It is a 1994 run-and-gun platforming video game developed by Shiny Entertainment, featuring an earthworm named Jim in a robotic suit who battles evil. The game was released for the Sega Genesis in 1994 and subsequently ported to a number of other video game consoles. Now, my knowledge of Earthworm Jim when this game came out, I knew of it, and it seemed like one of those games that I would love to play. But I was so into Mario, Sonic, Zelda, and various other RPGs for the Super Nintendo at that time that it's a game that just kind of, went by the wayside for me.
Yeah.
I knew of the cartoon that used to be on WB Kids. Watched a little bit of it. Like I had kind of a brief knowledge of it. But again, it was one of those things that I never really got into. So kind of the story of how I was introduced to this was a couple of weeks ago. I was at a local retro game store and I happened to find a copy of Earthworm Jim for a reasonable price. So of course I picked it up, and I was talking with the guy who runs the store, and he said, because I told him I'd never played it before, and he said, "Oh, did you ever play that game Conker's Bad Fur Day?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, well, it's kind of similar to that. It's really wacky, really over the top." And he was not wrong. I will say I have not beat this game because in the beginning it was so frustratingly hard that after about 15 minutes I stopped playing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just so frustrated because I could not get past New Junk City.
Yeah.
It took me forever to finally do it.
I remember as a kid, I could get to about level 2 or 3. And I played this game constantly for a couple of months. And like you. I don't think there are very many people on the planet that have beaten this game. I mean, this is probably up there on the level of like Super Meat Boy frustrating.
Yeah. It's just because it feels like no matter how much you try, there's always that one enemy that's just going to swoop out of nowhere
Yep.
and you're dead.
And it's a beautiful game.
The graphics are great.
It's one of the better, I mean, some of the best graphics for the Super Nintendo, up there with, Donkey Kong Country as far as a side scroller goes, because it almost looks like, like paintings that he's running through, and the character animations are just so wacky and awesome and just smooth. It's crazy, like, to go back and look at this game and be like, how did they do this on a Super Nintendo? Like, this just looks like it needed to be like I'd be surprised to see something with this level of graphics like today, on like a PlayStation 4 as a side scroller.
It has the look of a lot of modern day indie games that you would download like on the Switch or on the PS4.
Yeah. It's way ahead of its time. And I think that might have worked against it as well at the time. Don't get me wrong, it was a popular game and popular series, but like you said, I think it passed a lot of people by.
I think it was because of the time that it was released, because you had Mario, you had Sonic. When people still loved Sonic games, you had Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah.
You had all these other characters, and Earthworm Jim was just kind of, people knew of him, but I didn't know a lot of people who played the Earthworm Jim series. I feel like if maybe, I don't know what era he could have been released and it would have been better received.
Well, it falls kind of in the same category of like Ratchet and Clank. Kind of that early 2000s PlayStation 2 era type of almost like, I don't want to say animation era of stuff that's like that could easily be turned into like an animated movie or whatever. It sort of falls in that category of those type of games to me.
Yeah, I think that's a good comparison. But the plot of the game, Jim is a normal earthworm until a special super suit falls from the sky and allows him to operate much like a human, with his worm part acting as a head and the suit acting as arms, body, and legs. Jim's task is twofold. He must evade the game's many antagonists who are after him because they want the suit back, and also rescue and protect Princess What's-Her-Name from them. I love that name, by the way. The game plays out with Jim eluding and defeating all enemies and saving Princess What's-Her-Name. However, not only does she not return Jim's affection, but she's also crushed by the flying cow that was launched at the beginning of the game by Jim himself. That's so good.
Yeah,
that is so good.
And like, I love that the goofiness of this game. And like I said, this could have really been a huge franchise. Like, it has the makings of a huge franchise to me. Like, I'm talking movies, TV shows, toys. I just think the game was a little too hard for like kids at the time to get into it.
I wish that they would bring this series back, because you wouldn't even have to really do it too much different graphic wise. You could still have a 2D game like this, because as we mentioned, a lot of modern games like a Super Meat Boy or a lot of indie games look like this.
Mm-hmm. Actually, this looks a lot better than some of the indie games I've seen, like on Steam and stuff.
Yeah, and this is a game that was released in 1994.
Yeah, you're talking 23
and the graphics
years
still
ago.
hold up.
Oh yeah, like crazy. The music, the story, the gameplay. I mean, the gameplay is nice and it flows and it feels great to play the game. It's just, it's so ridiculously hard. Like, it doesn't need to be that hard.
It took me a while to actually really figure out the controls. And I know it's simple, but it was like I would try to go through New Junk City and I would just always die at a certain point. But then when I finally started playing a little bit smarter, I made it past there and then went to I'm on level 3 right now, the tube level. Some of the boss battles are pretty cool, the ones that I have done. The second boss, I think, was like the rats, the giant rats that you have to fight.
Yeah.
You start the fight, you're out of the super suit, and I'm like, what the hell am I supposed to do? So I'm just kind of jumping around like, oh my God, I can't do anything. No.
Which
And
level
then I
is it
finally figured it out.
that you're actually on the rocket and you're going through kind of like hyperspace or whatever, and you're trying to blow up like asteroids and stuff like that? This has been a
Oh,
while since I played this.
Those are like bonus levels that you do after you complete a main level. You're racing Psychro
Yeah.
through the through this like hyperspace tunnel, and you're having to avoid asteroids, and
Yeah.
you can hit little marks where you can like have a quick boost so you can get past them. You have little orbs you collect. To my knowledge, it's between all of the levels because it was after level 1 and 2.
Yeah. The cool thing about this game is that not only do you have your gun, but you can use his head, Earthworm Jim's head, as like a whip, and you can use it to like swing from different like just using it like Indiana Jones uses his whip to like go across chasms and stuff. It's really cool and really fun.
A funny fact about this, I was looking at the voice cast for the cartoon. And the voice of Psychro was Jim Cummings, who was the voice of Darkwing Duck.
I did not know that. I had forgotten that this was a cartoon as well. Like you just brought that memory back to me. Like I completely blanked on that.
Yeah, I never really watched it, but I knew that it was on Kids WB, which I didn't. I grew up not having that channel, so I never really watched it. I've just seen little clips that I've watched here and there on YouTube.
Yeah,
but it's a great concept. I love the universe. I love the wackiness, the over-the-top characters.
Yeah.
I just feel like it was released during a time where it was not necessarily doomed to fail, but I think it was doomed to kind of get lost in the shuffle because Mario, Sonic, Zelda, Crash Bandicoot, all those franchises were so successful. And it was really kind of, in my opinion, the golden years of those franchises, especially Sonic.
Oh yeah.
And it just kind of got lost in the shuffle.
And I really think Earthworm Jim, if it was a Sega exclusive, he would have been a better mascot for Sega. He would have been a longer lasting and mascot for Sega than Sonic. At least I think, in my opinion, because I don't know if they would have toned down the difficulty on the game to where it was a little more accessible to younger players. I really do think this game could have been like Earthworm Jim could have been up there with like Mario and Sonic and Link. I really do if it was an exclusive, but it was a third party developer.
I think it would have had a better transition to 3D as well.
Yeah.
Because that's something that has, I think, really hurt the Sonic franchise. The 2D games are great, and I still like the 3D ones, but they're not nearly as good as the 2D ones. That's why I'm like stoked for Sonic Mania, which I think actually comes out this week.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to play that because it's updated versions of some of the old levels in addition to new ones with the same graphic style as like a Sonic 2 or a Sonic 3.
Yeah.
So I really think that if they maybe considered bringing Earthworm Jim back, even if it was a 2D game, because I know they did a sequel, but maybe if they did like an Earthworm Jim 3.
Well, it says
I'd love to see it.
It says Gameloft developed a high-definition remake for the PlayStation Network and Xbox Live titled Earthworm Jim HD in 2010.
I remember that.
I don't remember that. And that's right around the time, that I was heavily into Xbox 360. I would have picked this up. This just passed me by.
It says here reception was less positive. IGN and GameSpot both felt that the surreal art style and animation stood the test of time, but felt that some gameplay aspects and controls felt dated in comparison to modern platformers.
Yeah.
And the iPhone version of the game was criticized for its sloppy controls, mostly due to being touchscreen only. That's understandable.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I really do think Earthworm Jim could have made a leap to 3D environments way better than Sonic the Hedgehog did.
Yes.
I really do think that if they were to make a real push to bring back Earthworm Jim, especially as on the Nintendo Switch, like a new game, I really do think that, his day could still come.
I don't see why not, because a lot of the mascot era, we've talked about this occasionally on the podcast. The mascot era, with the exception of Mario, is pretty much dead. But I feel like maybe that would work to its advantage, where it wouldn't have to necessarily compare to those games. It would just be like, oh, Earthworm Jim's back. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be like, oh, well, it's not Mario, it's not Sonic, it's not any of these other games. It would just kind of stand on its own. And I think that, if they were to release a third game, I think with it being this modern era, it would kind of work to its advantage.
Yeah, because now's the time to do it, especially with retro gaming being as popular as it is, and people wanting these old franchises to come back. I think it's a good time to bring back Earthworm Jim. And actually, I was just reading right here the part I was just asking you about. The in-between levels, a racing level called Anti-Asteroids is played. Unlike the rest of the game, it places the viewpoint behind Jim. The player must direct Jim on his rocket in a race against Psycho through a tube-like structure while collecting items and boosts and avoiding asteroids. If the player wins, the next level is started instantly. If the player loses, a special boss fight against Psycho must be won in order to progress to the next level. Like, just stuff like that just makes this game so hard. Like, you beat the level, and then if you don't beat the in-between level, you can't get to the next level unless you have another boss fight. Like, come on, man, we're kids.
The asteroid racing was honestly really fun. Like I'd put it on the same level as the 2D, side scroller type. But it says here Earthworm Jim 3D was released for the N64 and PC. And Earthworm Jim Menace to the Galaxy for the Game Boy Color were produced in 1999, but they were developed without the involvement of Shiny Entertainment and were mostly met with negative reviews. I vaguely remember Earthworm Jim 3D.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I recognize the cover. But either way, I still think that you could bring Earthworm Jim back. And I think it would be, if it were like the original, but the difficulty was maybe toned down a bit, I think it would be really well received. Because that universe, I love, if you're going to go over the top, you need to just own it. And they own it. Like, the characters are over the top. The environment is really colorful, really crazy. You can see why you would like it as a kid. It was almost like a Rocko's Modern Life type thing, where it's just everything's so bright, wacky, and colorful that you can't help but be attracted to it.
Yeah. So I know you haven't finished the game, but as it stands right now, what would you give this game as far as number grade?
It is tough because I haven't completed the game yet, but I would say so far my impressions, I'd give it probably a 7. It would be a little bit higher if it wasn't so ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
And I didn't quit playing after 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But I can't wait. I can't wait to keep playing it. I'll have some more time off later on this week, so I'm definitely going to play it some more, and I look forward to it. I do want to watch the cartoon sometime this week, even if it's not like a full episode. I want to watch some clips from it just to see what it's like.
Yeah, I wonder if it's on YouTube or somewhere you can download it.
I'm sure the clips have got to be on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll look it up on. I actually found this really cool site called Just Watch, and it tells you wherever you can type in whatever you want, and it tells you where it's streaming or where you can get it from. Not a plug for them. It's just, it's like a really cool site I found. If you ever wanted a site where you like, I wonder if this is streaming, and you go in there and you just type in some random TV show from like the early 80s, and it'll tell you where to find it.
Yeah. I'll end it on saying that, reception for the game was very positive. It was awarded Best Genesis Game of 1994 by Electronic Gaming Monthly. GamePro gave the Genesis version a perfect score. Famicom Tshushin, I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, scored the Super Famicom version of the game a 30 out of 40. And out of the top 200 Nintendo Power games list, it was rated 114.
Wow.
And overall scores give it, around the high 8s.
Yeah.
And then Maximum gives it a 4 out of 5 stars.
Well,
So overall, really good reviews.
if I can find it, I'm gonna pick it up because I don't know exactly. Let's do our little weekly search where we see how much these games are going for on eBay. Let's just look up the SNES version because that's what I mostly play on. Jim SNES. Let's see. Earthworm Jim. Buy it now. $24.87, which is not bad. Or you can buy one without a label for $6.99. But yeah, it looks like
I wouldn't buy it without a label.
Yeah, it looks like it hovers around like the $25 to $35 range, depending on if you want a manual with it, and the shape of the cart and all that kind of stuff. So it'll probably run you about $30, which ain't bad.
Yeah, I was able to find it for 20.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
I figured that would be probably the best I could find it for. So
yeah,
and I've never really seen it in person lately, so I decided to go ahead and get it.
One thing I did want to talk about really quick before we get out of here tonight. We talked last week about the which I want to talk about this in depth next week if you can watch it. The Night Trap 25th anniversary documentary that is on YouTube. I watched it last night, and it is excellent. If you love video game documentaries, it's up there with one of the best. It's really good. They really did their homework for this thing.
Sweet. Yeah, I wasn't able to watch it this week. The week kind of got away from me, so I'll definitely sit down and watch it later on this week.
Yeah, and it's only like 45 minutes long, so it doesn't take forever to watch it. So I would say everybody listening, please go to YouTube and watch that, and we'll discuss that a little bit next week if you can get a chance to watch it.
For sure.
But other than that, is there anything you want to bring up before we leave tonight?
No, other than just, be sure to check out the Derek Diamond Experience podcast every Thursday on iTunes and all other various podcasting platforms. Did a really fun Facebook Live Q&A last week. Might be doing another one again this week. We'll just have to see. So just follow me on Facebook, Twitter, the show pages at D Diamond Podcast to find out what this week's episode will be.
Sweet. I saw that you did that, but I haven't had a chance to watch. I'm a little bit behind on my podcast listening this week. But as
Same
far
here.
as Pop Culture Palette goes, we just had our 150th episode just released this weekend. So go over there to go to Twitter at PCP Show, or you can go to PCPradio.com. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/popculturepalette, and go over there and subscribe to the show on iTunes or Downcast, wherever you listen to your shows. And also, one thing before we go, please, wherever you download this from, whether it's iTunes or Downcast or Overcast, wherever you listen to it, go on there, leave us a review, and that'll boost us up in the rankings. We've got a really good listener base right now, but you know what? I want more. I want more listeners.
Yes.
More listeners. And I think we can get it, but the only way we're going to do that is for you people to do a little work. If you like the show, go over there and give us a review, and go follow us on Twitter and on Facebook, and share us and get some more people on board. And so thank you for those that have left reviews, and I'm going to start collecting those and giving you a shout out on the show. So thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
But other than that, let me go ahead and get our music started. And you can find us at nerdcaveretro.com. You can email us at nerdcaveretro@gmail.com. We're on Instagram and Twitter at nerdcaveretro. You can follow us on Twitter individually at jfunktastic and at Derek _ if I can say it, at Derek _ Diamond. We're also on Facebook.com/nerdcaveretro. So Derek, tell them what it's all about.
Groovy.
You've been listening to a Nerd Cave Network production.
I ended the music a little abruptly there. I'm sorry about that. And Nintendo finger.
It's all good.
But I'm going to go ahead and shut off the Twitch stream. Thank you for those watching. And we will see you next week. And don't forget to share our stuff and tell everybody about us. And thank you. So we will shut this off now. Bye.